I interviewed a bunch. They don't have a lot of online systems that I found. And like my whole business is based on, that. So a lot of them that I interviewed, they're like still getting checks. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Everything has to be automated, I can't be meticulous about every, little check that comes in. And I can't deal with that.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Chronicles. I'm your host, Jonny and the founder of Continual Capital Group. For the last 2 years, I've been studying alternative assets and now help solve the problem of creating passive cash flow for creators, influencers, and busy professionals by bringing you 5 episodes a week of easy to understand education in the world of passive investing. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny, and I'm joined today by Megan Stafford. Megan is the founder and CEO of Dreamy Capital. She started a real estate career in 2013 by selling a few Bitcoins she had bought earlier in the year. With less than $4,000, she bought her first duplex with an FHA $203,000 loan in Central Arkansas. Since then, she has managed a commercial real estate portfolio in the San Francisco Bay Area worth over $200 million. Multiple asset classes such as multifamily, retail, office, and mixed use. She has grown her personal portfolio from a start of $400 to a value of $1.7 million, with over half of that value coming in the last 2 years. Megan, welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going? So a couple of things. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. A couple of things to just fix on that bio real fast. It's a FHA 203K loan.
203K loan.
Yeah, they've got weird ones. I saw today they've got one that's with a B as in boy as well. So they've got a lot of different programs.
That is misleading.
But if people are looking for that, it's a really cool loan where you wrap in all of your upgrades, any renovations into the loan. And it's a FHA 203K loan. I'm sure it's still out there, but that is the one that I first used. And it was fun and also really hard just because, they require a lot more from contractors than I do now, actually. And they don't pay them right away. So then you get contractors that are a little bit angry, but highly recommend it for people just getting started out.
Interesting.
And then the other thing, I didn't start with $400. Well, I guess I did. Sorry, my dog is going to try to get in here. I did start with 400 and invested in Bitcoin. And then the FHA loan was like 3,800. So for less than a used car, I got a duplex. But yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats. And now obviously you've grown your portfolio to be much bigger than that. So kind of take us through it then, right? So you bought your first duplex. What led you ultimately to get to, commercial real estate?
Yeah. So my first duplex was the first time I was ever a landlord. Had its ups and downs. It was really fun in the beginning because I was in a band and my bandmates, lived with me on one side and then the other side was just a practice space. So that was cool because we all split the mortgage equally. And then, we could soundproof the other side, which made it a lot easier. I got to know all the neighbors and stuff because you've got to make sure you don't, play too late and get the cops called and all that.
Absolutely.
So did that for 12 months and then decided, I visited San Francisco, fell in love with San Francisco. I'm originally from Arkansas. This duplex was in North Little Rock, Arkansas. And decided I was going to move. So that's when I really became like a landlord. Before it was kind of like, just kind of fumbling around. But not only a landlord, but, a 2,000 mile away landlord. So it forces you to really start streamlining your process, and then also, paperwork out the wazoo. Back then, I think the only thing that was around was really Bigger Pockets. Listened to Bigger Pockets, read all the books that were out at the time on it. And there were a couple of others before Bigger Pockets that I read too, but that one had all of the forms for you. So I was like, great, I've already got everything ready. Went straight into it with that. And actually got really lucky. The first person that was going to move in didn't work out, but because I had those forms, I had a deposit to hold and all that stuff, I didn't get in as much trouble as I could have been because I had that money because of the forms, And then after that, the next people that moved in were great, and it just really helped me do a lot of verification process. Like, for example, I would have never thought to do a credit and background check. I would have never thought to, in the ad list everything so that it doesn't come back to bite you in the butt later. And so just, all of that was just from learning through the books and then trial and error. And then fast forward, a few years later, I didn't have enough money to buy another property on my own yet. So it took a few years from that first property to the second property. Second property was a single family. At the time, I had a W-2, so it was easier to go ahead and do residential and just keep going that way, especially because, I found lenders that even on rental properties would do 15% down instead of the normal 25% down, which really, helped. So I just started building slowly. I started adding 1 to 2 properties, duplexes or single family, whatever I could find that made sense, that met the 1% rule is what I used to go by. And then from there, I started wrapping everything into big, commercial portfolio loans. And that's kind of where we are now. I also worked in property management and managed, huge portfolios, and then switched to asset management. And then I guess really found my strong suit, which is acquisitions. I love the hunt for the deal. That's my favorite.
Nice. That's awesome. And that's a really, really great, like whenever I talk to someone who wants to get into it, that is kind of, the sort of tried and true path, right? I mean, how many, a lot of people can say they took that same path, but it's obviously very proven, which is what I tell people, right? Like, yeah, you can jump right into commercial real estate and people do and are successful, but you don't have to. You can start small, kind of learn all of that stuff, build up your own portfolio. And then the nice thing about that too is when you get into commercial real estate, you have proof of concept to show people like, hey, I've done this, right? I did a duplex and a single family or a few single families, and now I'm ready to move to this 8-plex or 12-plex or, whatever it is. And people are like, oh, okay. That makes sense, as opposed to just like, hey, yeah, I'm going to go buy a 12-plex. And people are just like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the first things they ask you in commercial lending is what's your track record? So I always have that on my website. I always have it in initial emails if I don't know the person. I've got lenders that I use all the time now, so I don't really have to do that as much, but definitely in the beginning, I had, my standard, template email that had everything linked and it just sent it out. Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. And so we were chatting offline before we started recording, and you had mentioned that you're right now working on like basically TI tenant improvements with a really interesting method that I haven't really heard before. So do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so it really started, I guess, a few years ago. I knew someone that was a renter in Las Vegas, and their apartment complex, whenever they did lease renewals, they would say like they'd have 3 options for upgrades, like, hey, we're renewing your lease for this amount, based on market rate. However, if you want to do upgrades, like one would be like granite countertops, fresh paint, yada, yada. And then the second option would be like, laminate countertops, this carpet upgrade, whatever. 3 different options with a price per month that would increase your rent. And they would say like, hey, if you're going away for a week or 2, vacation, whatever, we'll come in and do it during that time. But if you want to choose one of these options, great. We'll increase your rent based on that. However, you're going to get this market rate, which would have been, lower than the upgrade one, of course. But yeah, so I thought it was a really cool concept. The person that I knew didn't use it, but I recently did that on all my lease renewals just this past year. And every single tenant said, yes, I want it. So I was like, cool, that's awesome. And then now we're actually doing a step further, which is we want to do more green initiatives. I feel like, the older I've gotten and the less like struggling that I've been doing, the more that I'm able to like see past, like just my day to day, like how to make my own rent and my own payments, So now I feel like it's more important for me to be worried more about the environment and our future kids and, future generations.
Absolutely.
And also it helps tenants. I mean, I ask people if they want to do, like an energy retrofit audit. And then we'll do a retrofit, which obviously lowers their utility bills, and also increases the value. I mean, green homes actually do sell, faster than homes that aren't. So that's, next step for us, and really excited about it. Yeah.
Are there still like subsidies or grants available for doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So almost every electric company, has a program of a free audit, and then they partner with contractors that do it for you as well. So Energy Star, I think it's energystar.com. You can even look up rebates, and use their little drop down menus. I mean, I've got a condo in California, and I mean, it's like they cap it at 5,000, but like you can get a solar panel. I mean, they'll pay for your Google Nest. I mean, all of it, and it's like $150 rebate. And I think Google Nest is like 190. I'm like, that's awesome. So yeah, there's lots of rebates out there. I would start with whoever your energy company is first. Go to their website or call them. They almost all, I've only found 1 out of 4 so far that didn't have a program. And even then, I'm sure you could look on the federal level. But yeah, and then they come out, they do an audit for you. They'll use things like a blower door to check all the leaks and cracks. A lot of times, everything's just going underneath the front door from a crack, or insulation is bad. I mean, there's a lot of different things they can do, and and they'll usually pay for almost all of it, which is kind of crazy, but good.
Absolutely. Wow, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah, I know, because that was obviously a big, I mean, still should be, right? Like, I'm with you. We should absolutely be caring about the environment and the future for future generations. And what's nice, like you mentioned earlier, is, now we have the opportunity to do that, right? In a position to do so. But I know that was a big thing. Like all the new developments, I think, are all doing like green, energy efficient, Class A style, right? Because that's what, millennials want to live in, right? Because
absolutely.
it does feel like, we do care about the environment. At least I hope most of us do. So, and so with your tenant improvements, are you finding they're checking the highest tier?
Yeah, every
Or at
single
least one of
one.
them?
Yeah, they're
Really?
like, please,
Wow.
please make it awesome. Yeah, and I think and the market that I'm in too, there's rentals are flying off the shelf, and it's like, I think when you can set yourself apart in that way too, like it's saying to them, or at least from what I've heard, is like they're excited that like I care enough, because I could just keep it like that, but like to give an option that's like, hey, if you want to do these upgrades and we can lower your utility costs, and also like you have a nice place to live and you don't have to like look for another crappy rental with in the neighborhood,
Yep.
just yeah. I mean, people want to live in a nice place, and it's not that my places aren't nice. It's just they could always be upgraded, especially because most of my tenants have been with me for 4 years plus. So, they're a little outdated now.
Yeah. And these are in San Francisco?
No, so most of my portfolio is in North Little Rock, Hot
Okay.
Springs, and Benton, Arkansas. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm more of a cash flow investor.
I love it.
So this market is more my style. I'll probably do something in California soon, but my main go-to is always cash flow first, hopefully get appreciation on the back end, but that's what I go for.
1,000%. And that market, those markets, even that kind of like Midwest section there is, there is some appreciation on the back end. It's slow, right? But it's steady. Like that's the thing. If you look at the economics of the Midwest, that's why so many people love it, because it's just steady. Rent, rates are going to go up, 3-5% every year. You're not going to have, typically not going to have your 12-15% years like some other markets, but you're going to get 3 to 5% every year, and you can underwrite that, and it's consistent. And those are really, really great markets and great tenants too. A lot of people moving down there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't had a single tenant that's just like, like a really rotten one. Like all of them they really care about the property and, let me know problems right away, which I think, I would rather know than not know. Cause like, let's say you have a, water intrusion problem, like something wrong with the roof. If they don't tell you for like, 3 months, then you've ruined a lot more of your place than, if they felt comfortable just being like, hey, this is messed up, whether or not it affects them. Cause it might not even, if there's a hole in the roof, it might not affect them. Maybe it's on the other side, but like my tenants, I'm like, please tell me anything, whether or not it affects your place, or you specifically. But yeah.
Absolutely. And so do you have an on-site as well, or just like maintenance that answers tickets?
Yeah, I have lots of contractors that go right away. I have not found a good property management company, probably because I've done it before. I'm a little more stringent than most people probably would be. I interviewed a bunch. They don't have a lot of online systems that I found. And like my whole business is based on, that. So a lot of them that I interviewed, they're like still getting checks. And I'm like, no. Everything has to be automated, I can't be meticulous about every, little check that comes in. And I can't deal with that. But, and then, when I would ask about like process, that the questions that I asked, it wasn't a really good fit. And then on top of that, it's a little bit more expensive here. If you've got like 100 units, you can do 7% of your rent paid to them, right? But if you have, under 20, it's 10%. And when you're paying 10% to them, and then they don't even really have, process that I really like, I'm like, I'd rather just deal with it myself. And, if you have good tenants, it's not really a headache. I mean, my big thing is I always screen so hard on the front end that it doesn't really affect me. I've only had to evict one person, and that was before I did credit and background checks and all that stuff. So,
you only have to learn that lesson one time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And there's something to be said about that front end, right? And really, really vetting them. And look, proof is in the pudding right there.
Yeah. And so like now I use my Smart Move by TransUnion. That's got the best checks that I've seen on the smaller end. Like if you're a big company, you can do big contracts with different companies. But if you're just a mom and pop style, I highly recommend that company, or even Zillow does applications now. And they pay like $30 to do those. They're not as intense as my Smart Move, but still work. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. That's awesome. And so now moving forward, are you going to continue to grow the portfolio? What does kind of the future look like for you?
Yeah. So I just finished a big portfolio loan and wrapped a bunch into one. And so, that literally just happened like 3 weeks ago. So now it's the hunt. I'm excited because, I want to do bigger apartment complexes. And there's just like in my market, there's so many that I see that could really be fixed. A lot of landlords that I've seen, they keep the same rent, but then they also don't upgrade or anything. A lot of the landlords that I have seen in this market are, 70 plus. So I would say, there's a lot to be fixed in the last, 15, 20 years since they've owned it.
Nice.
So that's kind of the next step. I still want to stick with the Arkansas market. My family's here. So it's kind of fun to be able to come back when I, to visit family and work. And also like, I love California. There are a few smaller markets that I like, but again, like it's really, really, really hard to cash flow in California, especially in the bigger cities. And that's really what I focus on. And I was really surprised when I did the portfolio loan, because a lot of these properties, I bought in like 2014 and such, and they more than doubled in value. Because I was thinking oh, it's just, I'm not in an appreciation market. And then I was like, wait a second, I guess I am.
Yeah, well, that's nice when it comes time to, leverage all of that to be able to go do more, and you realize you're like, holy cow, okay, I can actually pull some money out here. So are you going to start like using outside capital, like really start building up and going?
Yes.
complex?
Absolutely. So because, apartment complexes are not that expensive here, I probably would only need, like 2 investors to finish out one deal. But yeah, and that's a really exciting place to be at because, before when I raised for other companies, but, I just started my own business 2 years ago. And it took me a while to kind of like get my money and everything like set up because for me, when I look at investing with other partners, I want to make sure that whoever is, doing the acquisition and the asset management, that their money is also involved in the deal. So that's why it kind of took a little bit longer. But yeah, I'm excited about this next step.
Yeah, 1000%. Skin in the game is vital. Like as a capital raiser, like I won't bring a deal to my investors unless I will invest in that deal as well. And I do invest alongside them. Right. And, of course that obviously helps them feel comfortable investing as well as, it shows that I'm, pun intended, invested in the deal, right? Like I'm going to take time. I took the time, the due diligence, vetted the operators, so on and so forth. And same there, right? When you're talking to an investor and every partner's investing in the deal. In fact, I had a lunch yesterday with an investor and he's like, are all of your partners investing in the deal? And I was like, yes, we are. And because we are, it's really cool. They actually give us a 5% boost.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Our return because it's a fund that we're bringing into the deal. So they actually give us a bigger return, right? So that's even another selling point for investors and obviously partners as well. So what do you see as, you obviously love acquisitions. What do you see as like your main role aside from acquisitions?
Asset management. Yeah, that's another big one. When it comes to property management, on this next deal, I will probably start either my own property management company.
I was going to say it's probably going to be necessary as you move up.
Yeah, because it's just I haven't found anything that works here, and it just would be a lot easier to have someone just come in and another thing that I've been doing over the years is when I feel like I've got a good idea or a good system in place, I film myself doing it, like screen filming, and then I have a whole Google Drive of stuff like that, so that if and when I'm ready to leave, which happens a lot, I like to go on vacation. I can just shoot that drive over to the next person, and there it is. It's like the whole manual.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, it is funny talking to people who are vertically integrated with property management, and I swear 98% of the time they were forced into it because they couldn't find good property management.
Yep.
Honestly, it's crazy, but that's the truth, and it's wild. They're like, I don't even want to be doing property management, but I have no choice.
Absolutely. I saw a guy that he made like a PowerPoint for his property manager, and he like did the math on it. He's like, look, if you raise rents this much and like do these upgrades and manage this is how much more money you can actually make. Like, does that sound like a good deal to you? And like, of course they're like, yeah, totally. But even when I'm interviewing property management companies, I actually don't look for the people that are managing like 500 units plus, because like to me that means depending on how many you have in your office, right? So it's like if it's just like 2-3 people and they're managing a ton of units, I don't want to use them. Like I don't. They don't have enough time for my stuff.
Yeah, there's no infrastructure in place to take on another. And that is a huge thing, right? And that's even a big thing in just asset management, right? Is these operators go out, buying all these apartments, and it's like, well, who's gonna look over all of these, And like you said, if you're not watching property managers, like you can end up in trouble pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things that I learned when I was managing other people's portfolios, is that like I had to be on the property managers all the time, like because like they send out the reports, but like they don't look at it. They just like download it from Appfolio or Stessa, and then they send it to you. They don't like review it themselves. Like that's the asset manager's job. And so every single time I'd be like, what is this? What is going on? Like why are we spending so much money on this? Like, why are is there a water leak? Like, what's going on with the water bill? And they're like, I don't know. Like, so it's really important to me, to really review those property management reports. No one wants to, but you gotta.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. I love it. Well, this has been incredible. I appreciated all of your insight and perspective, and excited to be a part of the journey. But we'll go ahead and wind down here, and we'll jump to the final five. First question: best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Probably just networking. I'm not very social, actually. I like get super nervous about stuff like that. And before, I would go to meetups, I would like freak out in the bathroom before. I'm like, oh my God. So I'd have to like talk to myself in the mirror to be like, okay, you're just going to go out there and say hi to like 3 people and then you can leave, And so like, it like took a lot of working up to get to that point where I could network. But yeah, every single mentor I've ever had, they're like, you got to talk to people because this isn't a business where you just do it by yourself. It's totally not.
It's such a relationship business for sure, especially when you get to the point where you want to start raising capital, right? Because you got to know people. And the nice thing about this industry is the irony is once you actually do start talking to people, you realize how easy it is and how nice everyone is in this industry. And you're like, totally. Okay, it was all in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Mostly because this next step is, I'm really concerned with energy, efficiency at this point. I think it's a problem that we all face. And I like that I'm now in a position to really be able to help with that because, not everybody can go out and retrofit like a ton of homes, but I can because I'm a real estate investor. So that part's really cool. The impact that will have is pretty astronomical. So yeah, I guess I would say that.
Awesome. I love that. That's amazing. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
Well, I've taken a little bit of a break from reading lately. I guess the last one I would say would have been, one that I really liked was The Power of Now.
Great book.
Yeah, there's a lot
Powerful
out there,
book.
but yeah, I've kind of slacked off in that realm lately. But yeah, and just podcasts, I've been listening to a lot of Esther Perel. So I've been doing more relationship stuff rather than real estate lately. So yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. It's so important. And that translates, in all aspects of life for sure. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I guess making people feel comfortable. Like once I get over my initial anxiety, I think people are usually pretty comfortable around me.
I love it. That's awesome. Cool. Last one. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Yeah. So my name's Megan Stafford, MEGANSTAFFORD. You can find me at dreamycapital.com. It's spelled DREAMYCAPITAL.com. And then I've got an Instagram and all that. But if you get to the website, you'll see all the other things.
Beautiful. We'll link it in the show notes, make it super easy. Megan, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again for tuning in. Who do you know that wants more cash flow? Share this episode with them so you can grow your cash flow together. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed on your platform of choice so you never miss a new episode. Go to ContaniCapitalGroup.com to learn more.